The wind howled across the white frozen land. The sky was gray, the snow endless, and the mountains far away looked like sharp knives against the clouds. Alex walked slowly, his boots sinking deep into the snow with every step. He was cold, tired, and lost. His small ship had crashed hours ago, and all he had was the survival bag strapped to his back. He pulled his fur hood closer and tried to keep moving. His breath came out in clouds of steam, his face burning with the icy wind. The silence of this frozen world made him feel alone, more alone than he had ever been. But then, through the heavy snow, he saw something strange, a shape half buried in the ice, a broken pod, metal torn apart as if it had fallen from the sky. Alex hurried closer, his heart beating faster. The pod was damaged, black smoke frozen to its sides. The glass canopy was cracked, snow covering most of it. He brushed the ice away with his gloved hand and froze. Inside, there was a woman, her body stiff and cold, her skin pale blue, her eyes were closed forever, her arms wrapped around something small. Alex's breath caught in his chest. For a moment, he thought it was another body. But then he saw movement. A small hand twitched, fingers curling weakly. It was a child. No, an alien child. Her skin glowed faintly, a soft silver-blue light running across her veins like tiny rivers of stars. She was alive, but only barely. He pulled the hatch open with effort, the frozen metal creaking loudly. Snow fell inside as he reached for the child. The mother's body was stiff, but her arms had been holding the girl tightly, protecting her. Even in death, Alex gently lifted the child from her arms. She was light, fragile, and very cold. Her eyes opened for a moment, wide and glowing. Not like human eyes at all, they looked straight into his. And for the first time on this empty planet, Alex felt he was not alone. He carried her out of the pod and laid her on the snow. The girl was breathing, but weakly, her chest rising and falling in slow, painful motions. Her lips moved, but no words came out, only a sound, soft and broken, like the cry of someone who had lost everything. Alex looked back at the mother, lying still in the pod, her face peaceful, though frozen in death. He felt a strange sadness inside him. This woman had died protecting her child. Now the girl had no one, no family, no home, and he, a stranger, had found her. He quickly covered the girl with his coat to give her warmth. She shivered, her skin glowing brighter, as if reacting to his touch. He didn't understand what she was, but he knew one thing: if he left her here, she would die, and he couldn't let that happen. The wind grew stronger, snow whipping against his face. He knew he had to find shelter soon. Carrying the child, he looked around, searching for a cave, a broken structure, anything to block the storm. His eyes caught something further down the slope, an old wreck, half buried in ice. Maybe another pod, maybe part of a larger ship. It was his only hope. He began walking, pushing through the snow, holding the girl tightly against his chest. Each step was heavy, but he forced himself forward. Her small hand clutched his coat, weak but desperate. It was as if she knew he was her only chance. Finally, he reached the wreck. It was broken and tilted, but part of the metal frame stood like a wall against the wind. Inside, there was space to rest. Out of the storm, he laid the girl down gently, wrapping her in his coat and checking her breathing. Her eyes fluttered open again, glowing faintly in the shadows. She looked at him with fear and hope together. He spoke softly, "You're safe now. I won't let you die here." Of course, she could not understand his words, but somehow, she seemed to feel them. Her small body relaxed, her breathing steadied a little. Alex sat beside her, watching the storm outside, his thoughts heavy. He had found her beside her dead mother, a discovery that filled him with both sorrow and mystery. Who was she? Why was she here on this frozen world? And who had caused this crash? He didn't know the answers, but one thing was clear. This was not a simple accident. This was the beginning of something much larger, and he was now part of it. whether he wanted to be or not. The snowstorm raged on, but in the wreck, a faint glow lit the darkness, the glow of a child who should not have survived, a child who would change everything. The storm outside slowly began to fade. The wreckage where Alex had taken shelter groaned under the weight of snow. Inside, the air was cold, but at least it was still. Alex sat with his back against the bent wall. The strange child wrapped in his coat beside him. He stared at her glowing skin, the faint silver light pulsing softly, like the heartbeat of a star. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her hair, though damp and frozen, shimmered with a strange metallic blue. Her tiny hands were clenched, her nails sharp and faintly glowing too. Her breathing was weak, but steady. She was alive. But for how long? Alex wasn't sure. He spoke to her quietly, though he knew she would not understand. "Don't worry, little one. I'll keep you safe." His voice echoed in the empty wreck. A human promise spoken to a child of another world. The girl turned her head slowly, her eyes opening. They were bright, glowing with strange light, deeper than any human eyes could be. She didn't speak. She only looked at him. Her gaze was not blank, was searching, questioning, as if trying to understand him. She reached out a hand, weak and trembling, touching the edge of his glove. The moment her skin brushed against him, Alex felt something strange. A warmth spread through his arm, a pulse of energy that wasn't his own. He pulled back slightly in shock. "What are you?" he whispered, but she only blinked, tilting her head, as if she was the one asking him that question. For hours, they stayed hidden in the wreck. Alex used pieces of torn fabric to block the wind. He gave the child some of his water, dripping it slowly onto her lips. She swallowed weakly, but her glow brightened a little. Still, she did not speak, not a single word. Night fell on the frozen planet, though there was little difference from the day. The sky turned darker, the snow glowing faintly under two distant moons. Inside the wreck, Alex tried to rest, but his eyes kept drifting back to her. There was something about her silence. It was not empty. It was heavy, full of secrets she could not tell. Suddenly, a sound broke the quiet, a distant hum, mechanical, sharp against the howling wind. Alex's body tensed. He knew that sound drones search machines. Not his, not human. They were looking for something, or someone. He crouched low, pulling the girl close. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter, as if she recognized the danger. The hum grew louder, shadows moving across the snow outside. Blue light scanned the ground, sweeping back and forth like hunters. Alex's breath caught. If they found the wreck, they would find her, and he had no idea what they would do to her. The girl pressed herself against him, trembling. Her silence spoke more than words could. She was afraid, terrified. Whoever had sent those machines, they were not here to rescue her. They were here to capture or kill. Alex looked around the wreck desperately. His survival bag was small, only carrying rations and tools. But he had one weapon, a compact plasma flare gun meant for emergencies. It wasn't powerful, but maybe enough to scare or distract. He gripped it tightly, his heart pounding. The drones hovered closer, their lights cutting through the cracks in the wreck. Alex held his breath. The girl's hand clutched his coat, her small body glowing brighter, and then something unexpected happened. Her glow spread outward in waves, faint but real. A strange field of light wrapped around them, shimmering like heat haze. Outside, the scanning lights passed over the wreck, but did not stop. The drones moved on, as if they had seen nothing at all. Alex stared in shock. The glow faded, the girl slumping against him, weak again. Had she hidden them? Was that her power? He looked down at her, whispering, "You saved us." But she only closed her eyes, silent once more. The danger passed, but Alex's thoughts grew heavier. This was no ordinary child, whoever she was. She carried something powerful within her, enough to hide them from machines designed to see everything. And if the drones were here, others would come too. Bigger, stronger, and more dangerous. He leaned back, staring at the icy ceiling of the wreck. His choice was clear. He could leave her here and try to survive alone, or he could risk everything, carry her with him, and face whatever hunted her. He looked at the child sleeping quietly beside him, her hand still clutched at his coat, even in dreams. He sighed. Guess we're in this together now. The storm outside raged again, but Alex didn't care. He knew one thing for certain. The silent child he had found was more important than anything else in this frozen world. And now, her fate was tied to his, but far in the distance. Under the cold moons, more shadows moved, not just drones this time, something larger, something alive, and it was coming their way. The night was long, and Alex hardly slept. Every sound outside made him tense. Every shadow made him grip his small plasma flare gun tighter. The girl lay beside him, wrapped in his coat, glowing softly in her sleep. Her light was faint now, but steady. She looked peaceful, but Alex knew peace would not last. When dawn came, the storm eased. The sky was pale gray, and the ground shimmered with ice crystals. Alex stepped outside the wreck, scanning the horizon. The tracks of the drones were still fresh in the snow, heading toward the mountains. But something else caught his eye, a larger set of tracks, deep and heavy. Not drones, not machines, but something alive, and the tracks led closer to where he had spent the night. He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Someone or something was hunting them. He turned back inside quickly. The girl was awake, sitting up slowly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She didn't speak, but when she saw his worried face, she frowned, as if she understood that danger was near. Alex packed fast. He stuffed food and tools back into his bag, then lifted the girl gently into his arms. She was weak, but she clung to him, her small hand gripping the strap of his bag. Her silence was heavy, but her eyes never left his, almost as if she trusted him completely now. They left the wreck and began moving across the snow. Alex walked fast, every step crunching in the icy crust. He kept looking back, scanning the horizon. For a time, the world was quiet, only the sound of the wind in his boots. But then, he heard it, a roar, deep and strange, carried on the frozen air. He turned, his heart pounding. From the far ridge, a beast appeared. It was massive, its body covered in thick white fur that blended into the snow. Its eyes glowed red, and its mouth opened wide, rows of jagged teeth gleaming. It was not alone. Smaller beasts followed close behind. They moved fast, too fast for their size, and they were heading straight toward Alex and the child. Damn it, Alex muttered, gripping the flare gun with one hand. He ran, holding the girl tight against him. The snow slowed him down, but the beasts cut across the ice as if it was nothing. Their roars shook the air, echoing across the frozen land. The girl buried her face in his chest, trembling, but Alex kept going, his breath burning in his lungs. The chase had begun. Every second the sound of pounding claws grew closer. He looked ahead desperately, their dark shapes in the snow. The ruins of an old structure. Maybe a tower long collapsed. It could be cover. Maybe safety. He pushed harder, his legs screaming with effort. The beasts roared again, the sound chilling him to the core. They reached the ruins, just as the largest beast leaped. Alex dove behind a broken wall, snow exploding around them. The beast crashed down, missing by only a few feet. Its claws tore into the ground, ripping through stone and ice. Alex fired the flare gun, the plasma bolt striking its shoulder. The creature howled in rage, smoke rising from its burning fur, but it was not dead. It turned its glowing eyes back to him, angrier than before. The smaller beasts circled, their growls echoing in the ruins. Alex pressed his back against the wall, clutching the girl close. He only had a few shots left, and against 3 beasts, it would not be enough. The girl looked up at him, her glowing eyes wide. Then, without warning, her skin began to shine brighter. The light spread, rising around them like a shield. The beasts snarled and hesitated, The glow made them step back, their red eyes narrowing in fear. Alex stared in shock. The girl was shaking, but her light grew stronger. The beasts roared and lunged again, but when they touched the shimmering light, they were thrown back, crashing into the snow. The largest beast howled in fury, pacing just beyond the glow. It wanted them both, but it could not pass through. The girl cried out softly, her voice breaking the silence for the first time. Not words, not language, but a sound of pain and effort. The glow flickered, weakening as she struggled to hold it. Alex knew she couldn't keep it up forever. He had to act. He aimed the flare gun at the largest beast. Another shot, then another. The plasma burning across its fur. The creature staggered, roaring in pain. The smaller beasts pulled back, circling uncertainly, and then, with one final angry cry, they turned and fled, disappearing into the snowy hills. The ruins fell silent again. The girl's light faded, and she collapsed weakly against Alex's chest. Her eyes closed, her small body limp. Alex held her tightly, whispering, "It's okay, you're safe, you're safe." But inside, he was shaken. This child was not only different, she was powerful. Powerful enough to push back monsters, powerful enough to protect them both, and that made her even more dangerous. He looked out at the snowy horizon. If the beasts had found them, then others could too, not just animals, but those who sent the drones. And they would not stop until they had her. He stood, holding her close. The chase was over for now, but it was only the beginning of something much greater. Far away, on another ridge, dark figures watched. Not beasts this time, machines, standing tall, their glowing eyes fixed on Alex and the child. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The ruins were quiet now. Only the sound of the wind carried across the broken stones. Alex sat with his back against a wall, the girl resting in his arms. Her glow was dim, her small chest rising and falling slowly. She had saved them, but the effort had left her weak. Alex's heart still pounded from the fight. The memory of the beasts, their red eyes, their teeth had lingered in his mind. He looked at the girl. So small, so fragile, yet powerful enough to drive monsters away. He whispered softly, "Who are you?" But she did not answer. She only slept, her head against his chest. He stayed awake for hours, watching the snowy horizon. Every shadow seemed like danger, every gust of wind like a warning. He could not relax. But as the night stretched on, exhaustion won. His eyes grew heavy, and at last, he drifted into uneasy sleep. When he awoke, it was still dark, but something was different. The girl was awake, sitting across from him. Her glowing eyes stared at him, steady and unblinking. She raised a hand, small and trembling, and touched his forehead. Alex gasped. In that instant, the world around him changed. The ruins, the snow, the cold, they vanished. He was standing in a strange place, a memory not his own. He saw a woman, the mother, the one he had found in the pod. Her face was full of fear, but also strength. She carried the girl in her arms, running through a burning city. The sky above was filled with ships, dark and sharp, pouring fire on the streets. Explosions shook the ground, towers collapsed. Alien voices shouted in panic, but the mother kept running, never letting go of her child. Alex's heart pounded. He was seeing what the girl had seen. He was inside her memory. The mother reached a small chamber. There she placed the child into the escape pod. Her hands trembled as she sealed it shut. Tears froze on her cheeks as she whispered words Alex could not understand, but the meaning was clear. It was goodbye. A final promise that the girl would live, even if she did not. The vision shifted. Alex saw soldiers, dark figures in heavy armor, their eyes glowing red. They stormed into the chamber, weapons raised. The mother stood in their path. She fought, with desperate strength, shielding the pod with her body. But the soldiers struck her down. Her body fell, lifeless. As the pod launched into the sky, the vision ended. Alex gasped and stumbled back, his breath shaking. The ruins returned, the cold returned, and the girl sat before him, her glowing eyes full of sorrow. He stared at her, unable to speak. He understood now. She had shown him the truth. Her mother had died to save her. The soldiers, the drones, the hunters, they were searching for her, because she was important. Too important to lose. Alex whispered, his voice rough. You're their last hope, aren't you? The girl tilted her head, as if she understood. A single tear rolled down her glowing cheek. She crawled closer, pressing her forehead to his chest. She was silent, but her silence spoke louder than words. Alex closed his eyes, holding her gently. He felt the weight of her story, the weight of her loss. She was just a child, but she carried the pain of a dying world, and now she carried the hope of it too. For a long time, they stayed that way, the fire of memory still burning in his mind. When he finally looked up, he knew his path had changed. He had not asked for this, but fate had given it to him. He could not walk away now. He had to protect her, whatever the cost. The girl looked up at him again, her eyes glowing brighter, and for the first time, her lips moved. A single word escaped. Soft and broken, home. Alex froze. The first word she had spoken since he found her. He repeated it, quietly. Home. You want me to take you home? The girl nodded, her eyes shining. Alex's chest tightened. But where was her home? Was it still standing? Or had the soldiers destroyed it completely? He didn't know, but he knew one thing. He would try. He looked out at the snowy horizon. The mountains stretched far and endless. Somewhere beyond them, perhaps, there was a city, a family, someone who still waited for her, someone who had lost all hope. Until now. He tightened the straps on his pack and stood. The girl climbed into his arms, resting her head on his shoulder. Her silence was no longer empty. It was filled with meaning, filled with trust. Alex whispered, "All right, little one, we'll find your home, far away, hidden in the snowy peaks." Red lights blinked in the dark. The soldiers were still searching. And now, their hunt had only grown stronger. But Alex did not look back. He walked forward into the storm, carrying the child who had shown him the truth in her eyes, and carrying the weight of a promise he could not break. The morning after the vision was clear and bitter cold. Snow stretched as far as Alex could see, glowing under the pale sun. The girl walked beside him now, no longer carried in his arms. She was weak, but determined, her small feet left glowing. Prints in the snow, fading slowly behind them. Alex kept glancing at her. She said nothing, but her eyes were fixed on the mountains, as if she knew the way, as if something inside her called her forward. He trusted that instinct, because he had nothing else to guide him. The land was cruel. Icy winds cut against their faces. Their boots sank deep with every step, but the girl never complained, never cried. Her silence was stronger now, like she had accepted her path. Hours passed. Alex stopped often to rest, sharing water and dried food from his pack. The girl ate little, but whenever she touched the water, her glow brightened, as if the simplest things, food, warmth, kindness, kept her alive. By nightfall, they found shelter in a hollow cave carved into the side of a cliff. Alex lit a small fire, the orange glow flickering against the icy walls. The girl sat close to the flames, her wide eyes reflecting both the firelight and her own silver glow. Alex sat across from her, exhausted, for a moment. He let himself believe they were safe, but safety never lasted long. In the distance, carried through the cave walls, came a low mechanical hum. Alex froze. Not beasts this time, machines. He stepped outside, scanning the frozen plain below. There they were, dark shapes moving in the snow, tall armored soldiers, with glowing red visors. They were searching, their weapons sweeping the ground. Slowly, steadily, closing in. Alex's chest tightened. They were hunting her, just as he feared. He rushed back into the cave, his voice low. "We need to move." The girl's eyes widened, but she stood quickly, ready to follow. Together they slipped out the back of the cave, climbing higher along the cliffside. Every step was dangerous, the ice slick and sharp, but below them, the soldiers passed through, their red eyes glowing in the dark like demons. The climb was long and brutal. By the time they reached a ridge, Alex's hands bled through his gloves, but the girl remained close, her glow faint but steady. When they finally reached the top, Alex collapsed into the snow, gasping for breath. The girl knelt beside him, her small hand touching his arm, and again, that strange warmth spread through him. The pain in his muscles eased, the ache in his chest softened. It was as if she was giving him strength. Alex whispered, almost to himself, "You're keeping me alive too." For days they traveled, climbing higher, moving deeper into the mountains. The world became sharper, colder, harsher, but also more beautiful. Ice spires glittered in the sun. Rivers of frozen crystal wound through valleys. Sometimes they saw shadows of great winged creatures gliding far above, silent hunters of the skies. But they were not attacked. Perhaps the girl's glow kept them away. At night, Alex told her stories, simple words, human words she could not understand, but she listened, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Sometimes she tilted her head and made a soft sound, almost like a laugh. It gave Alex hope that even in her silence, she was healing. One evening, as the sun sank behind the peaks, they found something strange. Half buried in the snow was a broken marker, tall and carved with alien symbols. The girl stopped, her glowing hand brushing the icy stone. Her eyes lit brighter, and she whispered the same word as before, home. Alex stared. This was a sign, a clue that they were close. But if they were close, the hunters would be too. That night, as they rested beneath the broken marker, Alex couldn't sleep. He thought about the family she spoke of in her silence, the family who had lost hope. Were they still alive? Were they waiting? Or had they been destroyed, like her mother? The girl lay beside him, her head resting on his arm. Even in her sleep, her hand clutched his coat. He realized then that he had become more than just her rescuer. He was her protector, her guide, maybe even her only friend, and he would not fail her. But far away, across the snow, lights flickered, dozens of red eyes moving in the dark. The soldiers had found their trail again, and this time, they were not alone. Machines walked beside them, towering war drones, their heavy steps shaking the ground. Alex did not know how long they had before the soldiers caught up. But he knew one thing, the journey was no longer just about survival. It was about reaching her family before the hunters reached them. It was a race against death, and the snow was running red. The mountains finally gave way to a wide valley. Snow still covered the land, but the air here was different. It carried warmth, faint but real, like hidden life. Alex stopped at the edge of a ridge, the girl standing beside him, her glowing eyes fixed on the valley below. There, carved into the rock, half hidden under snow, was a great gate. Tall stone walls rose from the cliffs, covered in alien symbols that glowed faintly, and beyond the gate, Alex saw light, soft golden lights, a city, alive and hidden. The girl's eyes filled with tears. For the first time since he found her, she smiled. She whispered that one word again, her voice trembling, home. Alex's chest tightened. He had brought her this far, through storms, through beasts, through hunters, and now, maybe, he had finally brought her back to where she belonged. They descended into the valley. As they approached the gate, it rumbled with deep power. Figures appeared on the walls, tall, slender beings with glowing eyes like the girl's. They raised weapons, shouting in a language Alex did not know. The girl stepped forward, her small voice breaking through the cold air. She spoke words Alex could not understand, but he saw their effect. The guards froze, their eyes widening. One of them dropped his weapon, his hands shaking. Then the gates opened with a thunderous sound. Alex followed as the girl walked through. The city beyond was unlike anything he had imagined. Tall crystal towers rose high, glowing softly with inner light. Bridges of stone and silver crossed frozen rivers. People stared from every corner, their glowing eyes widening as they saw the child. Voices filled the streets, shouts, gasps, cries of disbelief. The girl walked on, silent but steady, her small hand holding Alex's coat. Then, from a grand hall at the center, a group emerged. They were older, dressed in flowing robes of silver and blue. At their head was a tall woman, her face lined with sorrow, her eyes glowing softly. When she saw the child, her body shook, her hand covered her mouth, and tears streamed down her face. She stumbled forward, crying out a name. The girl broke into a run. Her voice finally finding strength, she called out, and the woman fell to her knees, gathering the child into her arms, sobbing. The people around them gasped and cried. It was clear, the girl had been thought lost forever, and now she was returned. A hope they had buried was alive again. Alex stood back, watching the reunion. For a moment, his chest felt light. He had done it. He had given them back what they thought gone. But then, the stares turned toward him. Dozens of glowing eyes fixed on the stranger, the human. The whispers grew louder, sharper. Who was he? Why had he brought her back? Could he be trusted? The tall woman, still holding the child, looked at Alex. Her tears were real, her relief clear, but her eyes narrowed with suspicion. She spoke words he could not understand. The guards raised their weapons again, surrounding him. Alex lifted his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm, but his heart sank. He had brought her home. But that did not mean he was welcome. The girl twisted in the woman's arms, reaching for Alex. Her small hands stretched toward him, her voice crying out. Her glow brightened, and for the first time, she spoke a human word clearly. Stay, the people gasped. The woman froze, looking down at the child in shock. Then her eyes returned to Alex, still cold, but softened by confusion. She gave a command, and the guards lowered their weapons slightly, but the tension remained, heavy and sharp. Alex was taken into the great hall. The child stayed close, refusing to let go of his hand. Inside, the elders gathered, their voices rising in debate. Some wept with joy at the girl's return. Others shouted warnings, accusing Alex of being a spy. One elder slammed his staff, declaring that no human could be trusted. Another argued that the girl's bond with him could not be ignored. Alex stood in silence, unable to defend himself. He did not understand their words, but he understood their eyes. Fear, mistrust, suspicion. They were glad the girl had returned, but they were not sure if bringing her back had also brought danger. The tall woman finally spoke, her voice strong. She looked at Alex with narrowed eyes, then at the child who clung to him as if she would never let go. The silence in the hall grew deep, every eye waiting for her judgment. At last, she said a single word. The guards lowered their weapons fully. The people murmured, some in agreement, others in anger. Alex still did not know what she had said, but when the girl looked up at him and smiled, whispering safe, he understood. For now, they would let him live. But as the crowd slowly dispersed, Alex saw shadows at the edge of the hall, figures who did not share in the joy, who whispered with cold eyes. He knew the danger was not over. He had returned the girl to her family, but peace here was fragile. And in the distance, beyond the mountains, red lights still moved across the snow. The hunters had not given up. They were closer than ever. The great hall was quiet, but the silence was heavy. Alex stood near the center, still surrounded by glowing eyes that watched his every move. The girl sat beside him, her small hand gripping his tightly, refusing to let go. She was safe with her family again, but her grip told another truth. She did not want him to leave. The elders argued in their strange language, voices sharp and loud. Some wanted to protect the girl at all costs. Others whispered that Alex had brought danger to their gates. And deep in Alex's chest, he knew they were right. Because beyond the mountains, the hunters were still coming. That night, Alex was given a small chamber in the city. Stone walls carved with symbols glowed faintly in the dark. He sat on the floor, staring at the fire in a small brazier. For the first time in days, he felt warmth, but he did not feel peace. The girl came quietly, slipping into the chamber, her glowing eyes wide with worry. She sat beside him, resting her head against his shoulder. "Stay," she whispered again, her voice fragile but clear. Alex closed his eyes. He had done what he promised. He had returned her to her family, but could he really leave her now? He thought of the beasts, the drones, the soldiers, the memory of her mother dying to protect her. He thought of the way the girl clung to him, her glow shielding him when all else failed. She was no longer just a mission, she was family. Before he could answer her, the city shook. A deep rumble echoed through the walls, followed by distant screams. Alex rushed outside, the girl following close. From the high walls of the city, he saw it, red lights moving through the snow, hundreds of them. The hunters had found the hidden valley. Alarm bells rang, the city came alive. Warriors poured into the streets, weapons glowing. Children were rushed into shelters. The tall woman, the elder, who had embraced the girl, gave sharp commands. But even with all their strength, Alex saw fear in their eyes. The enemy was too many. The girl stood at the gate, her glow brightening. She looked at Alex with eyes full of fear and determination. "Help," she whispered, her voice trembling. Alex gripped the plasma flare gun at his side, his last human weapon. It would not be enough against an army, but he nodded. "I'll fight," he said, because there was no choice. The battle began. Drones flew over the walls, firing streams of red energy. Alien warriors fought back, their silver blades cutting through machines. But for every drone that fell, more came, and behind them marched the soldiers. Tall and armored, glowing red eyes fixed on the city. Alex fought at the gates, firing shot after shot. His weapon burned hot, his hands shaking. The girl stayed close, her glow rising like a shield. Energy blasts bent around them, beams of light breaking on her shimmering aura. Warriors around them stared in awe, realizing the truth. The child was not just a survivor. She was their protector, their hope reborn. But hope came with a cost. The girl's body shook as she pushed her power to the limit. Her glow grew blinding, her small frame trembling. Alex knelt beside her, shouting, "Don't push too hard, you'll burn yourself out." But she only looked at him, her glowing eyes steady. "Safe," she whispered, and the shield exploded outward. A wave of light that swept across the battlefield. Drones shattered in mid-air, soldiers staggered and fell. The snow itself glowed as the wave carried far into the night. The hunters screamed, retreating into the mountains. The city stood safe, at least for now. When the light faded, the girl collapsed into Alex's arms. Her glow dimmed to almost nothing. Her body was weak, her breathing shallow. The tall woman ran forward, tears streaming as she saw the child alive. But the girl clung to Alex, whispering with the last of her strength. "Stay." Alex held her close, his chest heavy. He looked at the elder, who stared at him with new eyes, not suspicion, but respect and fear. She knew, as he did, that the girl's power would draw enemies again and again. The hunters would never stop. And now, Alex was part of that fight. He could leave, return to his own people, but he knew the truth. If he walked away, the girl would be hunted until she was gone. If he stayed, he would never have peace, but she would live. Her family would have their hope. The choice was no longer about survival. It was about duty, about love. Alex looked down at the child in his arms, her glowing eyes dim but still watching him. He whispered softly, "I'll stay." The elder bowed her head. The people raised their voices in cries of relief and triumph. But Alex felt only the weight of what was coming. He had won a battle, not the war. Above the snowy peaks, red lights still flickered in the dark sky. More ships were arriving. The hunters would return. And when they did, he would be ready, because he was no longer just a lost traveler. He was the protector of the silent child. And her story and his was only beginning.